Hello everyone, it is I, Sasquatch Senpai. This is what I look like. Shaved head, glasses, shaved beard, medical reasons for everything but the shitty beard. I can just only grow shitty facial hair. But anyways, there's a lot of... at this day and age, review bombing is a thing that happens. Personally, I think Diablo IV is a fantastic game. Sure, there are its issues, but those are all issues that can be easily solved in the seasonal model that they have. It can be solved incrementally, unlike with Diablo III, where you had to wait for that major expansion because of the infrastructure that the game has set up. And so I wanted to take a look at some of these review scores. As we can see here, positive 300, mixed 92, negative 480. Now, a ton of these positive reviews, let's go ahead and just put users. A ton of these positive reviews are going to be people just trying to offset negative reviews. And there are even negative reviews that only list positive things, but they're trying to outweigh the positive reviews. It's just how it is. I personally think it's the best Diablo game released to date. I've played them all. I played 1 not as extensively, 2 through a few of the original seasons. Terrible 56k internet connection in my backwoods town where I grew up at. 3, played a ton. It's particularly co-op with my wife. 4 is another game that I'm going to be playing co-op with my wife. There's plenty of classes. Playing hardcore, loving it. Not even really touched core yet. That's for the co-op with my wife. But anyways, I wanted to take a look here. I'm a D2, D3 PoE veteran. These games have never bored me. I still regularly play all of them for far more hours than it is recommended by my doctor. Haha, clever. Yet the same cannot be said for Diablo IV. By the time my first character was in her mid-60s, I was bored. And truthfully, it felt like trudging just to get her to that level. Diablo IV isn't a very fun game, nor can I find the dopamine look to keep me coming back for more. Recently, after I closed Diablo IV, I went back and opened up D2R, D3, and PoE just to see how they all felt in comparison, and honestly, they all felt amazing. There's something about D4 that is so off-putting. Is it the graphics, the camera angle, the colors, the tone? I don't know, and it's unfortunate because I've been looking forward to this game for a long time, and I just don't think it's for me. Well, there's a lot in this review here. Man, you could just be getting old and not finding enjoyment in the games anymore, in the newer games, and find more comfort in those older games as well. D2 has its charms. It's definitely just as slow going starting up, but rather than splitting your points between the Paragon system and abilities, your skill points, they're all just in skill points. Really don't have much to say in here. This just sounds like personal opinion on what it is, and it seems like more of an opinionated score, but like D2, D3, PoE, D4, I don't know if I would say brain rot. I would definitely say even in Diablo IV, running through many dungeons or nightmare dungeons or doing any content, there's definitely a lot of moments of just autopiloting through the content, which is something that I felt like in Diablo 2, Diablo 3, and mostly Path of Exile, since it's the one I've mostly played aside from some Diablo 3 co-op with my wife. So he has no real idea why it doesn't mesh for him, and that's just how it can be. Honestly, this game is not great, and Blizzard is making it worse with every patch. Positives, good story compared to other ARPGs. I do agree. It's a great story compared to them. Cross-platform, split-screen co-op. The split-screen co-op was not really for me. I did attempt it in the beta. It could be solved by now, but there was just like some jittery stuff going on as the players move throughout the world together. So my wife plays on her Xbox while I play here on my PC. Looks are good, but not incredibly varied. It is more of a realistic take. It's not as fantastical or anything like that, but that's just how ARPGs are. Path of Exile recycles a lot of locales. Hell, it recycles the entire first half of the game. Diablo 2, you go through the same types of regions. At least in this one, each region has its main theme, such as the Fractured Peaks being snowy highlands. then you have different little slight variations of the biomes within that zone. I thought that was a really nice touch. Linear skill progression and builds. Look, up to level 50, you can pretty much do whatever you want with your skill points. That's what I did on a few characters. But from then on, when you're going into World Tier 3, and especially 4, you really need to batten down those hatches and decide on what exactly you want to do. What skills mesh with one another? What skills do you need to leave by the wayside that you might not like? What aspects will work with those skills and make that build work? I think that this is where a lot of the issue comes in. With Diablo 3, you had your item sets. That locked you into builds as well. It just told you exactly what you needed to do. Oh, look, my Hammer of the Ancients refunds Fury, and I can cast it in and cast it again while using my ultimate to call in some Ghost Barbarians, or however you wanted to go about it. This game doesn't do that. It does require quite a bit more theory crafting, and there are not an awful lot of different guides online, because the ones that there are, we'll just go with Druid for instance, is there are very obvious builds you can do, and those are the ones that are there to follow. You really need to batten down the hatches if you want to come up with something unique, and it will work, because there are plenty of unique items which grant you bonuses for playstyles. And then, sorry, I was looking at this next one, but we'll skip that one. Plenty of different uniques to alter your playstyles, and it's just people not being able to fill in without a little bit of work of grinding. It's an ARPG, you're grinding. In Path of Exile, you're grinding for the correct skill gems and then leveling them up and trying to find your weapon and spending who knows how long randomly generating through sockets and then trying to connect those sockets. It's just as linear. It's just everybody's playing the same builds. Like, you go to any of the build sites, you can see all of the builds are just, the top builds are all the same ones. Lack of synergy between any items. That's just downright wrong. That's completely wrong. Lack of any semblance of balance between classes. I definitely think towards the end game and maybe at the beginning, but it's not really too noticeable. I mean, maybe in PvP, that could become a real issue, but that's not even something that they're working on balancing. PvP is just what it is. PvE, it's PvE. Like, what balance do you want? Are you clearing 3 less mobs than your friend? I don't know. In an ARPG, I'm assuming they're talking about melee classes, so Barbarian and Rogue to some extent. Rogues are fantastic. And Druids, especially in early game, melee feels really, really bad and slow. But that's just an ARPG thing. That's just how they always are. The Barbarian in Diablo 3 felt awful early game. Diablo 2, it still felt the same. Let's see. Tons of hard CC with no way to play around it or build around it. That is absolutely incorrect as well. There's tons of ways to make yourself unstoppable, or just avoid the hit completely. Combat is incredibly slow and unrewarding, and Blizzard is pushing more of this. I don't know, I wouldn't say it's slow. It can be slower at the beginning, that's for sure. So, yeah, I just don't know what he's talking about. I think a lot of these reviews haven't really played further into the game at all, but combat is definitely not slow for me. It's like any other ARPG. I'm running my main skill, and then I'm running utility skills. Combat is incredibly slow. Seasons will feel incredibly dull. We don't know that. We don't know what the level of content they're going to be pushing at Seasons. We know there's going to be story beats. It's not going to be the main story beat that follows the end of the campaign. That's going to be the expansions. But we don't know if, like, what these are going to be on. Like, they're not going to be Destiny-style seasons following the expansion, setting up for the next one. Path of Exile doesn't really have story. It could be like Path of Exile. There could be major gameplay changes, new aspects. They could add sets, who knows. Little to no variation in bosses, dungeons, etc. Well, I think this one has some truth to it. Bosses are definitely reused, but so were they in every other ARPG. You're always running into the same bosses. You're always running into the same enemies. The dungeons just aren't as randomized, so you do know how to run through them faster. So, I mean, it's an ARPG. The focus is to go faster. My wife loves running dungeons, no matter how repetitive they can be. But I mean, if you're thinking about it, you're running 35 dungeons for each class specifically to get their aspects. And in that 35, there is quite a bit of variation. Now, if you're trying to get all of those Paragon points to rank 5 renown for each region, it is going to seem like there's little or no variation, but there is variation there, just no more and no less than there should be, I guess. No idea what this is. Diablo 4 is just not fun. Well, I disagree. I'm loving it. Unfortunately, I pre-ordered it. Yes, I was being stupid enough, so thanks for the experience, Blizzard. Lesson learned. I don't know, man. If you listen to half the people on the internet, they say never pre-order, so that's not on Blizzard, that's on you. As for the game, it is a product of tedious labor, greed, and stagnation. Okay. Disagree on all of that. It's the same price as other games are now, and it's honestly the first game at $70 I felt like that I've spent my money on. Hell, Star Wars Jedi Survivor didn't work on my RTX 2090 with a i9, was it 7900? 79,300? I don't know. Like 4 gens old. And then, so I refunded it. Then I upgraded my PC, running an RTX 4090 and an i9 13900K. It still doesn't run. It's also a $70 game. Last of Us 2 still doesn't run fine on PCs. On console, it sure runs fine on PlayStation. Plenty of games don't run. This game actually works. I don't know what the tedious labor is. The stagnation is. It's an ARPG. It's going to stagnate if you're not into just mindlessly grinding. I don't know. Maybe I'm jaded by negativity. Maybe repetitive tasks don't bother me. And the gameplay itself just feels like it. Yeah, it's an ARPG. That's what it is. Visually, it's nice though, but the visuals keep you only for so long. I don't know. I'm always finding enjoyment in little bits of detail here and there. Then the realization of the hard truth kicks in. It's not fun. What a shame. No content to enjoy until 11:50. What? The story is fantastic. All the side quests are fantastic. The dungeons, if you're doing them for your class, they're varied. Okay. No content to level 50. Oh boy. And also, if you don't know each character's recommended build, it's hard to reach level 50. Also, not at all. There is no recommended build. There are just builds that are better than others. That's just how it works. Your items are just trash before the level. Trash just before the level? No. The items, if you read the stats on them, you tell what they're doing, they can carry you quite a way. Even previous Diablo 2 or 3 was not like this? No, it was, because you could have bad items. And if you want to get the good items, you should run the specific dungeons, Champion's Demise, to raise your level, and you should try Nightmare Dungeons. It's all the contents you will do. I mean, in previous games, you were just running Rifts and Greater Rifts. It is all the content you do. I don't know. I enjoy the Nightmare Dungeons. I think they're a good little variation. I've always liked how Mythic Dungeons work in WoW. I wish the other MMOs I played had variations of the Mythic Dungeon system to add a little bit of randomness to them and more challenges to overcome in them. Instead, Final Fantasy XIV, you're just really, I don't know, you're just really running the same dungeon over on different classes on your character. Childish story for adult games. I murdered a child's mother in front of her. Open world is a lie. Open world is a lie until you're level 8, which should be about 10 minutes after you enter Kyovashed. Field bosses are useless content. I don't know. I'd say they're definitely spectacles. They're fun to do at least once. I don't say that's useless. We don't know how they're going to be utilized in seasons. It's like playing Diablo 3 at 0.7% speed. That's fair. Diablo 4 is a lot slower than Diablo 3 ever was. It's a lot more focused on gritty, slow, precise combat until you get to level 50 and then you go through, but I am really stuck on this. How far did they play for a childish story? We're talking about someone murdering their son to earn the respect and gratitude of people who shunned them, and then trying to murder his mother and former lover to gain their respect, and then there's nothing. We're talking about a man's son being kidnapped and turned into a demon as he has to watch him be slain and not able to be saved? What is an adult story to you? Metamorphosis? I'm running out of brain cells here. I don't know. I really think it's review. Honestly, though, I'm surprised I haven't seen anything to cash out yet. This is probably something just complaining about a lack of WoW in China. I don't even know what. Is that Korean? I think it's a 4 out of 10, but I give it 0 because people gave it 10. Like, that automatic Diablo loser. That's okay. This game has 2 souls. Just repetitive over and over crap, and what the point of farming gear and leveling up your character if the enemies keep scaling like that, and who sell a skin for $25 for an already expensive $70 game? Just pure greed and no intelligent form the game dev and Blizzard. I have enough of your BS. Oh my god. Finally a cash option. Just had to wait for it. Only got there. This game has no soul and is just repetitive over and over. That's an ARPG. You run through the campaign, then it's repetitive over and over and over. That's what Diablo 3 was. Adventure mode to get some gear, get some currency, get some heraldic caches. Then you go farm rifts, then you do greater rifts. Maybe a set dungeon once a season, just to master it. That's what that was. Point of farming gear if your character, if the enemy keeps scaling. I mean, the scaling is just a way around going. I mean, what? The Nephilim rifts scaled with you as well. They never were just the same levels you went through them. And regularly, in greater rifts, you were killing stuff over your level, and nightmare dungeons do give you stuff that is over your level. The enemies at a certain point, when you're geared up and you're actually making a conscious build, it's like they don't scale at all. If you're not careful, you can step in something and get hurt. If you're not using your utility skills correctly, you can be frozen or stunned or something. But the level scaling has never really been an issue. It maintained a challenge on bosses as you're going through dungeons, but even then it's make them, you break their toughness bar, whatever it's called, and you just smash them to death. I don't know. Who sells skin for $25 for an already expensive $70 game? It's just a skin, my man. I'm of the minority here. Is like, I really don't care about the cash shop whatsoever, as long as it remains just a cosmetic cash shop. And I think Diablo Immortal is something we cannot gauge this game by. Diablo Immortal is primarily ran by NetEase, a mobile game company outside of China who doesn't make the best of games. This is Blizzard. You can look at their monetization for Overwatch. It's all just cosmetics. There's nothing that really helps you there. $25 for some skins. Yeah, that's true. They are kind of expensive for a $70 game. Sure, that comes out to $95 if you go and buy that optional thing. Now, let's take a look at... let's speak of another game that I previously played until I started having double vision for some reasons. Valorant. Valorant has $130 skin packs for guns that you barely see any of. And then on top of it, you need to pay even more money to get the most out of those skins. Yeah, it's a free-to-play game. It's $130 for skins. Path of Exile, yeah, it's a free-to-play game. But it's really free to try. once you get to the end game, you need to purchase stash tabs. You need to have the room for currencies. You need to have the room for map pieces and all the various different mechanics that have been shoved into the game and going forth. Not to mention they sell $600 seasonal packs of skins. $25. Man, that is a cheap cosmetic anymore outside of a gacha game. Oh, Genshin Impact people are spending more on that to try to get a character, which is just a fancy skin with a few different skills here, and that's actually game-changing. Whatever, pure greed, no intelligent form, the game, man, you gotta proofread. Diablo IV is a mixed bag, that's fair. Offering some enjoyable moments, but failing short in several areas, and I do agree, but I honestly feel like where it succeeds definitely outshines where it fails. On the positive side, the game presents a simple yet engaging story that managed to hold my attention until the very end. The narrative successfully captivated me and kept me invested in the game's world. That's true. I also think the narrative is fantastic. Not only do I think it's the best narrative in an ARPG that we've ever had, I do think it's probably one of the best just narratives we've had overall in gaming, at least this year. I wouldn't say ever, because I do have a bunch of other games that I really just do love the story of, and could be a little bit out there, but even like a lot of these side stories really, I think, count towards the overall narrative of the world of Sanctuary and the continent we are on. However, where Diablo IV falters is in its endgame content. The promised meat of the experience turned out to be rather disappointing with a lackluster and monotonous gameplay loop. Once again, I don't think it's lackluster. I think people are just trying to grind as efficiently as possible to 100 as quickly as possible. Oh, what is this? A little over a week after official launch. Gameplay loop, and no matter what ARPG you're playing, it's going to be a monotonous gameplay loop. Last Epoch, Path of Exile, Diablo 3, Diablo 2. It's Torchlight, the Torchlight series, same thing. The activities and challenges offered and the endgame failed to engage me and left me longing for more exciting and dynamic content to continue my adventure. Well, happy to say, Gamalier, that's exactly what the seasons are meant to do. So, that is on the way. You will be able to continue your adventure then, and the seasonal participation is completely free. So whatever new content they put in, you'll be able to participate in for as long as you quickly grind it out. One aspect that particularly disappointed me was the build system. I had hoped for a more intricate and diverse approach, where character progression would not solely rely on obtaining specific legendary items. That's fair. Unfortunately, Diablo IV followed the footsteps of its predecessor, Diablo III, by emphasizing the same gearing system. The best abilities are still determined by the legendaries tied to them, which increase damage output by a higher percentage compared to other abilities. This lack of flexibility and creativity in the build system resulted in a sense of repetition and limited options for character customization. Now, I think where it does get it right is, yes, grinding for specific legendaries and uniques that are centric to some builds to be able to succeed, or even expense at refunding your ability, and especially your Paragon points, and the time to refund your Paragon points for like new uniques you get that might make you want to try like a Nature Furies build on a Druid. That can be rather brutal and unappealing and just not fun. However, Diablo 2 is just you put points into something and everybody ran 500 skeletons and that was that. Everybody ran one skill. It was the same thing. People put points into different abilities and then ran that one skill. Sure, you had your hotkeys, but people were just using those on occasion to swap between. Even in the Switch version of Diablo 2, which I played with my wife, that's with the hot bar, it was similar to this. It's you had your few skills you constantly used, and that was that. I think maybe they could have toned down the legendary items, but most builds, for the most part, can be successfully done with the aspects you get in the dungeons, and that is a good thing. And to really send them over the top, you do need those uniques or drop-only aspects, and that can be unfair, but as long as you're doing the content that is meant for your level as you're scaling up into Tier 3, doing Nightmare Dungeons at your level, those are going to drop for you. Do your Whisper Caches, those aspects will drop for you. Use your Murmuring Orbs to gamble, those will drop for you. Is it fun necessarily not having access to them right away? No, but essentially it's just the runes on your skills you had in Diablo 3. See, and yeah, experimentation with the skills, finding something that's fun and useful isn't always the best time, especially with the cost of having to respec your entire class. Moreover, Diablo 4 suffers from excessive stat bloat, with a plethora of stats that serve little purpose. This abundance of irrelevant stats diminished the excitement of gearing up and fine-tuning my character. I wonder what stat bloat he's talking about. Specific resistances definitely seem to not have much of an effect, like shadow resistance or physical resistance, or is physical resistance one? I don't even know. Ice resistance, fire resistance, that stuff doesn't seem to have much of an effect, even though I do pop a potion of that when I go into a Nightmare Dungeon if they're doing extra damage without trying to negate that. Gearing up and fine-tuning my character, it would greatly benefit the game to streamline and balance the stat system, providing a more focused and meaningful approach to character progression. All ARPGs get bloated, though. Literally all of them. As far as fast as you could bloat it in Diablo 3, that's not really there. Diablo 3, those Paragon points carried over into each character, and that immediately bloated you. In 4? I don't know. Compared to other ARPGs, I think the stat bloating is rather under control. We're not in the 50,000s of life yet. We're looking at like sitting 6, 7, 8,000 life if you're lucky on tankier builds. Doing a ton of damage, but the enemies have a ton of life. That makes sense. The random attributes actually affect each class differently in an important way, so at least strength and intelligence and dexterity actually means something on my druid. Not entirely sure what it means there. In conclusion, while Diablo 4 manages to deliver an engaging story, it falls short in key areas that significantly impact the overall experience. The underwhelming endgame content, lack of a build system, innovation. And again, I think the Paragon system is a great innovation. It's different than what was previously there. It's complex enough, but not to the level that of like Path of Exile, which is just daunting because then you have your gem slots and then you need to plan your stuff around all the way for... You just follow a guide. That's the rule of Path of Exile. Just follow a guide, otherwise you're going to have a bad time. You don't need to innovate anything to make it great, but I think there's enough innovation here that doesn't keep it completely stagnant and stale. Changes it up just slightly enough to make it interesting. Endgame content, sir, you rushed that endgame. I'm sorry to say, you rushed that endgame. Anyone who's there right now has rushed it. There's no way around that. And excessive stat bloat. Once again, I don't see excessive stat bloat in this game. That was one thing they specifically did not want to do, and I think they kept that in check. Into the game's potential for long-term enjoyment. Diablo 4 has its moments of fun, but it ultimately leaves me craving for more depth and a variety increase of the damage of X ability by X%. But like with Diablo 3, we end up with the same gearing system, where the best ability is best because of all the legendaries tied to that ability increase the percent damage by more percent than other abilities. Well, I mean, every ability isn't a damage ability. And then again, there are unique aspects that change utility spells into damage abilities, such as for the Druid, where when you cast Trample, you cast 6 landslides for each space you move out to your side. You double that with something where every time you cast Landslide, it triggers twice. You have a really unique build built around a utility spell. You just have to do more than haphazardly throw stuff in and pay attention to what you're trashing or saving. It's also extremely stat bloated with 90% of stats being... No, they're not completely useless. I mean, your class is going to have a stat better for it than others, and the other stats still provide something, so you're not getting useless out of it. That's Diablo 3. I give it a low 4 out of 10 since the majority of this game is spent in the endgame. Made an account just to review this game. Oh boy. I played Diablo 2 endlessly for years, and these idiots can't design a game. Why? For the love of God, would you put in level scaling in a game like this? Legit, the whole point of playing a game like this is to feel like a powerful character in an epic fantasy that's completely good for no reason. You can still make the game hard without level scaling. Oh hey, Diablo 2 was groundbreaking. Let's never do anything like it again. Essentially make it pointless to play the game. A level 5 will outdamage a level 60. No, they don't. Looks pretty stupid and makes it pointless to play. Feeling of the only time a level 5 will outdamage a level 60 is if the level 60 has no congruity between their legendary aspects and their skills, or even looking at the rules on their gear. Looks pretty stupid and makes it pointless to play. No feeling of progression or accomplishment. I feel great progression as I'm going. The fact that I can stay up and clear the mobs that are supposedly my level or higher depending upon the Nightmare dungeon I'm running, and clear them with ease just as much as the stuff that is my level, that feels like progression to me. That feels like that power is continuing on with my character. If you want the game to be hard, Elden Ring showed you how, not with this artificial... What? Okay. These are two completely different games, but I mean, sure man, go off. Not with this artificial blank that everyone agreed was stupid 15 years ago in Oblivion. It was stupid in Oblivion, that was a different game. That was also stupid for different reasons, because you had bandits in diamond armor. Or whatever. Jeweled armor? Gilded armor? I don't know. That was the difference. It just made no sense for them. Your most famous and successful game of all time, Diablo 2, didn't have it, but you think it both sequels needed it? Oh, at least he recognized Diablo 3 had scaling. Needed it after everyone keeps saying they hate it. Everyone is either fine with it or absolutely hates it. No, I don't think there's a problem with it. I think it's good. It makes my progression feel stronger, that I can continue getting better at the game and finalizing my build to where their scaling level doesn't matter to me. If I can two-hit a elite enemy at level 57, and I can continue hitting the elite enemies at level 69, I feel like I'm stronger still. Who the blank is it for? No one is asking and begging for level scaling. Legit no one. Boring and uninnovative. What a waste of my $70. So many people Blizzard worked on this game, so many people failed to make a good game. Nice, the graphics are a travesty with Diablo 3. I don't know, man. Tell me why it's not a good game. I have nothing to go on here. I can't argue this point. I can just say you're stupid. Whatever. Well, I don't know. We sort by positive. Don't mind my terrible scaling here. Boo-hoo to all those who seem to think you deserve games just for you. I'm like, they're just as bad on this level too. I play games since a young guy, and Diablo 4 is easily the best Diablo game today. I do agree it's the best Diablo game today. The huge amount of free wine and cheese helped me save some money for the Ultimate Edition. Thanks. Okay, that's fair. That's clever, at least. Here's the simple truth. This is the best game that Blizzard released since the original World of Warcraft from 2004. Yes, this game is better than Diablo 3, StarCraft 2, Overwatch, and Heroes. Okay, man, we're looking at a low bar here. I am leaving out remasters and expansions that Blizzard team should be very proud of. They created here. It'll be up there, but everyone knows Tears of the Kingdom is going to win whether it deserves it or not. It's just as bad on this end too as on the other end with the negative reviews. People are just trying to balance each other out, and I think they're constantly just changing. 62702. Oh, not a new one this time. Anyways, that's that. I think it's always hilarious reading through user reviews on aggregate sites like Metacritic or OpenCritic. This stuff makes no sense to me. Anyways, thanks for watching.